Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Today it is time for another live game, and this time around it is going to be a Zerg vs Zerg played on Priant terraces rather. I really do enjoy playing a 14-14 style lately, especially on maps like the one that we are on right now. The main reason for that are these beautiful golden minerals right outside of my natural. That's a hi to my opponent because he said yo, so I mean we have to be mannered here. Gonna go for the 14 gas guys there, followed up by the 14 spawning pool. We'll be getting an overlord next and we're gonna go from there. So 14-14, thank you. 14-14 is actually not very much so of an all-in. A lot of people are doing 13-12s and stuff. But the nice thing about 14-14 is that you can simply go ahead and play a macro follow-up. Whereas with 13-12, oftentimes you just simply don't even have the minerals to go ahead and make something like a queen. This one is actually relatively macro focused, and on top of that you can actually beat 13-12ing players. So I'm gonna go up to 18 workers here, then make an overlord next, while waiting for, you know, a couple more minerals. I do want to get the Zergling speed out very early on, so I'm actually waiting here for just a second. Here we go. Gonna start up the Zerglings. I'm gonna start up my my queen here actually as well, and then we're gonna be getting the Zergling speed out. Gonna pull one of the drones out of the gas geyser, follow it up with another set of Zerglings, and then we'll get the overlord going. So I actually should have gotten the overlord slightly earlier. There's a couple different variations of this build in particular. This one should technically be a little stronger if my opponent is gonna go for any kind of early game cheese. But for the most part, it seems to not actually matter all too much in what order you get things in, as long as you know, get a whole bunch of workers out. So as you can see, like with 13-12, you don't actually usually have enough to really saturate those bases. In this particular game, I'm actually in a pretty good spot right now. Gonna be obviously injecting with that queen. We'll be walking a drone down towards the third base. Got another overlord coming in right now as well. I'm gonna start non-stop Zergling production. So looks like my opponent has indeed decided to go for a hatchery first here. I could have definitely pushed this a little more aggressively. I probably could have even, you know, finished off the game if I got a little lucky. But this is fine. This is fine. We're just pushing onwards here. So my opponent has committed a lot here, okay? Did I not send a worker down? Oh, I'm pretty sure I sent out a worker. That's a little unfortunate. Ugh, this micro actually is very unfortunate too. So I thought I sent down a worker there. Ugh. Yeah, we'll inject here. Send down a couple more Zerglings. So actually making some minor mess ups here, and this makes the aggression significantly weaker. That's okay though. We got a natural following up, and the natural is going to be at the gold bases. Now gold bases are important not to overestimate. They're not like, you know, God sent or whatever. He's getting a spine crawler here. I'm definitely gonna have to do some sort of damage. Okay. So we'll focus down the queen while zoning away at all of the Zerglings that he's got. That's huge. That's a very big pickup, obviously. And I'm gonna follow this up with a whole bunch of workers instead. Don't really need to go for an all-in. I'll be making, you know, drones again right now, but oh, hey, this is fine as well. Okay, let's get out. Let's get out. So, very good. Very good. We managed to kill a whole bunch of stuff there, which helps out a lot. Gonna send a couple workers over. We'll be morphing in some defensive banelings. I could have gotten a second queen a lot faster. We'll go up to a third queen here as well. But everything considered, we're definitely at a very nice spot here. I'll be getting a spine crawler here as well. Just that, you know, defense right there for that natural. I know he was making Zerglings, so I have to be careful. There's a big chance he's going to be able to do a whole bunch of damage or maybe swoop me out with like a, you know, unexpected timing attack. But that definitely was pretty solid. Everything considered, I think we should be at an advantage right now. Transferring a whole lot of workers here as well. Let me put down a creep tomb or two. And as you can see, the key aggression right there that I hope I explained relatively well was to use the Banelings not to like run to their deaths randomly, but mostly to... Oh, he's going all in. He's morphing in Banelings somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Okay. We'll just have to defend here. The key right there was to make sure that I used the Banelings for zoning. And not so much for killing workers, okay? And my opponent immediately says GG. Alright, let me jump back into the replay real quick. Alright, so here we are in the replay. Now, I do really quickly want to point out the income tab. The income tab is usually the most important one when playing Zerg versus Zerg, as most of the time the player that is having a couple more workers will have a significant lead. The only issue with this right now for my opponent is that I obviously went for a much faster tech, and I got the Banelings out really quickly. Now, when defending or when attacking with Zerglings and Banelings, with speed Zerglings and Banelings, while your opponent is having queens out and slow Zerglings, there's a very important thing you need to do. The biggest threat in that army are the queens. The queens can deal with the Banelings. The Zerglings are obviously gonna have a very hard time, especially when they're slow and on creep. So, you need to make sure that you take out the biggest threat there while using the Banelings for zoning. And sometimes you get huge detonations off, sometimes you don't get anything. But in this particular case, I managed to snipe down both of the queens, which already actually was enough damage to begin with. But then he also handed me a big group of the Zerglings. So right now I'm just checking up, making sure that I know what's going on. And notice in the income count, okay, I do need to make sure I kill at least, a bunch of his workers, or at least, get a couple of my own workers up at the gold base in order to make sure that I'm actually at an advantage. Because income-wise, obviously, if I just sit back here and I don't actually do any damage, my opponent is gonna, let's say, like, be about 15-20% up on me. That's actually significant because every minute that goes by, he's just gonna get more and more ahead. So, I need to make sure that I'm attacking the queen right here, and he's actually doing a smart little tuck-in right here with the spine crawler as well, but I'm not actually running the Banelings to their deaths, and that's one of the mistakes that I see people make a lot. You want to make sure the Banelings are on a separate hotkey. You want to use the Zerglings to deal with any kind of shenanigans that you can find, and most of the time it's going to be spine crawlers and queens winning the top priority, and then using the Banelings just to run around to make sure that you sometimes get a nice connection. So this, in this particular case, I guess we can watch the fireworks again. Obviously a miss micro by my opponent. That's because I quickly tried to split up the Baneling, so I sent 2 down to the bottom and then 2 to the top as well, just to try and, get a little bit more value out of him this way. So there's a little like, micro here that allows my Banelings to basically surround his links. But the most important thing here is that you do not detonate the Banelings blindly and just, try and go for the drones. You use the Zerglings to basically just nuke down the biggest aggression and go from there. So at this point, obviously, I'm at a very nice advantage, mainly because I will be able to deal more damage to my opponent, but most importantly, because the gold base is mostly, mostly finished up. And while I definitely made some, early game errors, especially with the overlord timing, that also, the timing on, the aggression in general, I think the execution here was pretty good. So the same idea here is true. I'm trying to just basically force him to get no mining time done, moving in with the Banelings right when I notice, hey, there might be a little bit of trouble here, but focusing down the queens as the top priority. So the reason why you want to focus down on the queens, there's 2 reasons. I mentioned one briefly earlier. The first reason is to make sure that you obviously, cannot really get sniped with your Banelings that easily. But most importantly, I also want to make sure that I, use my Zerglings to their maximum potential and sometimes keep off a couple of workers. But also, you basically deny your opponent from getting larva injects done. So at this point, I got some solid detonations. It's going to be 20 Harvesters for 13. I know that I will have an advantage here, so I start up pretty much non-stop Zergling production from here on out. I actually do get a couple more workers here. Those are actually pretty big risk. I shouldn't be doing that. Should just simply move over a couple of workers instead. But I hope this clarified at least a little bit how you can be approaching the early game Zergling Baneling micro. As you may have noticed, I wasn't actually planning to go all in with this, or I wasn't actually, planning to finish off my opponent with this. But if I can get a significant lead, obviously every single time I, I will do so. Now in this particular case, I got the spine crawler up immediately. I already have 3 queens out as well, and the 3 queens are going to be used in the same manner that I basically attacked him into. I'm making sure that the 3 queens can be sniping down the Banelings. I'm trying to target fire between those. So if you speed it up slightly, the spine crawler here helps out a ton as well. Just making sure that my units are split up. That's not a way to basically, like, if you're not that great at Zergling Baneling micro, the easiest way to do it is just to split up your units in advance. Like, especially in defensive scenarios, you can sort of like create like a safety point with these queens. Like, those are basically like points of like safety, right? Like, my opponent doesn't really want to fight here in range of the spine crawler. So if I put this queen right here, that's fine. If I split up my army here in advance as well, I will be fine as well. And on top of that, I can actually plug this little hole right here between the Vespian Geyser and the spine crawler to make sure that the Banelings take a little bit longer to get into my mineral line, which is where they're headed. And to basically, make sure that my units, my queens and my spine crawlers in particular, can fight a little bit longer. So there's like little tiny details that I tried explaining in the middle of the game that I didn't actually manage to explain very well at all. But I hope I explained it a little bit better right here. And I hope you enjoyed watching this one. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you want to see more content like this one, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. And I want to thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one.